Hello everyone, and welcome to the New France Village. It's the pinnacle of technology here, because this backdrop is actually showing the price of Ethereum in real time. Oh, it's red. Okay, all right. Well, that's fine. We're going to enjoy an amazing panel on stablecoins as infrastructure. And as much as I'd like to introduce everyone here, this really is a marquee panel. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. So why don't we start right here to my left?
Hello, my name is Katie Talati. I'm the Director of Research at Arca. We are a crypto-native asset manager. We run a flagship liquid token fund, and we're focused on investing in long-term fundamental ideas in the crypto markets.
How's it going, everybody? My name is DeFi Dave. I tell stories for CAP. We are a holistic covered credit system with a digital dollar product and a yield-bearing counterpart.
I'm Xerox Joshua. I'm on the board of Spork DAO, the DAO that owns and operates ETHDenver. I'm a steward of ETHDenver. So thank you all for coming. This has been a great event so far. And I am founder and CEO of Azos Labs, which is a stablecoin and base over-collateralized by climate finance and energy RWAs and commodities. Our goal is to make money clean.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. So let's start off with the topic of the panel, which is stablecoins as infrastructure. Do you believe that stablecoins have all the infrastructure that they need for mass adoption, or is there critical pieces missing?
Yeah, I think we have most of the pieces there. I mean, we have the regulatory framework with the Genius Act and MiCA. We have the rails with Visa, PayPal, all of them coming online. And we have the demand. I mean, there's like over $200 billion of stablecoins in circulation, or 300 billion, who knows? But what's missing is to tie it all together, is to put it in the hands of people. And so it's really an issue that we're going to overcome with UX and it being something like how we use the internet every day, but we don't really think about the protocols. Stablecoins are going to be the same thing. And so once we figure out UX, once we figure out clean on and off ramp, then I think we'll be there.
Do you two agree?
I agree with some of this, for sure. I think that we've come a long way, especially in the last couple of years, especially in the adoption and definitely in regulatory framework. But I think that the ultimate goal, right, is that nobody's using credit cards, nobody's using a bank, right? This is like very like the pie in the sky, I think, goal for everyone. But to get there, there is not just that you need the consumer on this end to be like, yes, I'm comfortable putting my stablecoins in this wallet, holding them this way, and paying for them. You also need that merchant adoption. And I don't think a lot of people necessarily understanding digital assets, just because we're not on that like payments end of it, how hard it is for all the individual merchants that you see to accept stablecoins. And right now, we've come up with some really great solutions. Like EtherFi was just talking before this. They've done an amazing job at creating a non-custodial solution for spending your crypto and getting it essentially accepted in different places. But the acceptance that's still happening with merchants is that they're not actually taking payment in stablecoins and having settlement that's instant. As a result, what they're doing is that they're basically, you're paying with your credit card and it's still going through a few more intermediaries and settling through a bank before it goes to the merchant's bank account. And so I think to have like that pure stablecoin adoption, you need to get to that. But that is a very difficult problem to solve. Credit card companies and digital payments are finally just getting this right in emerging markets. And I think that we probably have like 10, 15 years until we see that same amount of proliferation with stables.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Do you think that that's primarily a technological barrier or a regulatory barrier?
I think it's both. Like we do have MiCA, we do have Genius, which is, like huge strides in the last like 2 years. But I do think that every jurisdiction is going to have their own regulation, so we need that. But at the end of the day, I mean, when I say merchants, like I'm literally talking about like the guy that is like using Square Pay for his like really small corner store and isn't like built into like a big overall framework. I'm talking about like the nail salon that us gals go to, and they're charging us 3% if we use our credit cards there. So like those are the places that need to start with the adoption of stablecoins, and they're going to be like that last adopter because for the most part, it's not always in their interest, and it's for them to change over their tech. It's expensive.
Do you have any thoughts on it, or just questions?
Yeah, no, I agree with that last point because I was thinking about how to answer the question, and my first thought was that it would be a regulatory problem, and it's the on-off ramp, and if it's easier to off-ramp stablecoins, then they would be much more ubiquitous. But I guess the bigger solve here is if people can just spend it the way they and use it among each other and go to the corner store and get your nails done, you wouldn't need an on-off ramp. And so that is a cost of tech hurdle rather than just a regulatory one.
I'm just curious, as an organizer of ETHDenver, like how much do you look at stablecoins for payments with vendors or with people coming to the event? Is that at all in the discussion, or do you just think, the infrastructure's not ready?
Most of the sponsors pay in stablecoins.
Nice.
Every year, going back to the beginning with Austin Griffith and the burner wallets and XDAI, before it was Gnosis Chain, stablecoins on testnet even being used at the food trucks. Most people, maybe not in this room today, but most people in the industry's first transaction in the real world was buying food at one of our food trucks here at ETHDenver.
I was one of those people, yeah.
Yeah, a very common story. I don't know if the vendors are still using that. We opted for a cleaner user experience rather than trying to cobble together something that no one's going to use after again.
Makes sense. I mean, at the time for me, the wallet on the mobile phone was the issue because I didn't want to have my funds on my mobile wallet. But no,
we did talk a few years ago. We almost had a BIDL stablecoin that we were going to use backed by Treasury. That would be like there were securities problems, and we're like, the lawyers were like, don't do it.
So we're at ETHDenver, and I'm going to start with you, Josh, but I want to hear everyone's perspective on this. Ethereum still is the majority home of stablecoins by a very thin amount. Do we think that is because like Ethereum and stablecoins are just a perfect fit, and Ethereum has properties like decentralization and such that make it a natural home? Or do we think that we're going to see other chains possibly supplant Ethereum as the majority home of stablecoins?
I think it will remain the home indefinitely. I think there's no other network that has as robust infrastructure and decentralization. And like we value that, but do institutions value that? And I think yes, they do, because they don't want to be on chains where some other CEO can be like, all right, well, we're just going to censor this transaction, especially government to government. Or some governments around the world, are they going to want a California company to be able to just censor central bank to central bank transactions? The answer is very obviously no, they will not. Is it possible that something will reach the size and scope of Ethereum eventually? I don't think so.
Dave, you talked to a lot of institutions. Is that what they say?
Yeah, to answer your question, I think Ethereum has the 3 L's, positive L's, Lindy, longevity, and liquidity. Ethereum has just been around for so long and has garnered so much liquidity and has been so battle tested, no downtime and everything. So it really is the go-to home for stablecoins. And also to your point, neutrality and decentralization are huge factors when it comes to stablecoins. And not having one party over-dominate another. They all kind of check each other, whether it's Tether or USDC and whatnot. But I think Ethereum will be the home for settlement for a long time, but I'm not sure if it'll be the home for payments. I think that is still up for discussion, whether it's going to be an L2 or whether it's going to be some other alt L1. But I think Ethereum is the home for settlement because of Lindy, liquidity, and longevity.
I think I agree with the payments piece that you were saying, DeFi Dave, because at the end of the day, why else would we see the launch of things like Tempo and Plasma and Arc, which at the end of the day, like we can say, these are alt L1s to Ethereum, like who knows if they're going to take off or do well, and they're centralized, et cetera, et cetera. But these institutions are putting serious money behind them because they think there could be something there, and they are looking to optimize for something that isn't there. And look, I love Ethereum. I agree. I think it has really achieved a mainstay in terms of being the home, I actually think, for DeFi, for sure. But I don't know if that necessarily means that they'll be the home for things like stablecoins, especially because, we still haven't solved some of the things around privacy, KYC. And I know there's other solutions out there that are working on that as like layer 2s or, with some of the ZK tech that's coming out. But I think that's why you're seeing these alt L1s pop up focused on payments, because they're like, well, we'll just solve this from the ground up.
Yeah, I think different stablecoins dominate different areas and use cases. So You had Tether, the first stablecoin was the settlement for centralized exchanges. You had USDC, which became the stablecoin for DeFi. And then you had other different stablecoins fill their niches. In the future, I'm sure you're going to have a stablecoin that will dominate payments and maybe it goes regional, and like one dominates South America, another Asia. So I think the script is yet to end. There's still a long way to go with stablecoins, but for now, I'm an Ethereum romantic, so I want to see Ethereum be the home for stablecoins. But we'll see.
So as we move to a stablecoin-centric universe, technology very often has winners and losers. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's all winners. Sometimes it's all losers. What do we think stablecoins is going to be? Because there's a lot of players in this chain, right? From banks to retailers to end consumers. Does everyone win? Do some people win at the expense of others? Do some people win more than others? Open question.
I think in general, like, everyone can be a winner, and that's not me just being like, oh, we're going to give out awards to all the kids. I think anyone can win in this space. I think it's the groups that just say, like, we're not going to go with the innovation, we're not going to evolve, they're going to fall behind. I have talked to some folks at banks that are like, oh no, like, stablecoins will never, replace banks, and they're never going to do this and that. And I'm like, they already are replacing banks in some places. You just haven't explored different jurisdictions outside of the United States. And I think that there are areas that will definitely grow more than others. I think right now the problem is, and this is something I was kind of getting at earlier by explaining, that there's still several leaps when you make a stablecoin payment, for example, with a crypto card. Those old school payment pieces, they're still extracting a piece along the way. And so I think it's great. We're seeing solutions though from projects like Rain, which essentially take like 3 steps of that like payment stack and like smush it together and reduce the fee. And so I think you're going to see more solutions like that. And that's just what's happening all over finance too. I mean, even with things like tokenization that's coming on chain, a lot of all it's doing is it's getting rid of like paper back office like processes at banks and, institutional investment firms and stuff.
So paper pushers could lose out. Let's hope they learn AI. Dave?
I feel like I answered this previously with my last answer, but I think there'll be a few big winners just because of network effects, but that doesn't mean new entrants can't come through with their own solutions or use their own network effects. Like, I imagine a future where Amazon comes out with a stablecoin to use in their Amazon ecosystem, or Starbucks. Starbucks is like basically one of the biggest banks, honestly, if you look at it with all their points. They come out with a stablecoin, that's huge. So I see stablecoins, I split them up in 2 categories. I see distribution stablecoins, and I see infrastructure stablecoins. So distribution stablecoins are what I just mentioned. The payment stablecoins are Genius compliant, the Amazons, anything under the Genius Act. And then infrastructure stablecoin is, well, these Genius compliant stablecoins are limited because they can only be backed by short-term treasuries, but infrastructure stablecoins, well, you can do a little bit more with that. And there's stablecoins out there, like the one I'm working at called CAP, which actually takes these payment stablecoins and it's a layer built on top of it. And I like to call it the Uno reverse card on TradFi. And I have a Uno reverse card here. And basically how it works today is a lot of DeFi, a lot of stablecoins, they go off-chain. They try to wrap their assets in RWAs, and it doesn't work because they deal with friction. But with CAP, where I work, you have institutions coming on-chain to enter our pool of capital, and in order to access us, they have to play by our rules. So instead of DeFi going to TradFi coming to DeFi, the Uno reverse card.
You're getting a little wild there, Dave.
Yeah, he put a +4 on me.
I don't have a card.
Yeah,
I got you one
left
after.
out. Where's my card?
I'll get you guys after.
I don't think I have anything to add. I saw a clip from Margin Call earlier today that was like, no matter what, all throughout all of finance, there will be the same percentage of winners and losers. It's just who wins and who loses and what the technology ends up being at the end. I think that probably remains true.
Fair enough.
80-20.
On the subject of
80-20.
technology, of course, AI is huge in the news. And there's an attempt to push this narrative that AI and stablecoins are a natural fit. Do you guys believe that narrative? Is it hype or is it just cope? Like, what do we think?
I think there's, definitely some merit behind it. You have things like X402, which I didn't know about until I researched about when you put this question for the panel. And I didn't realize it was actually a standard put way before our time, and it anticipated something like agents. And if you think about it, stablecoins are the perfect store of value and monetary asset for agents because all they need is an API key and like a few different functions, and boom, they can transact. So I definitely see a future where there's agents using stablecoins. Sorry. And whether it's like X402 or some other standard, it's just a matter of how.
What do you all think? Feel free to just,
Yeah.
make something up.
I mean, I think at least, well, I think part of it sounds bad. Some of it is cope, right? Like we're trying to kind of stay relevant in the news at the end of the day when, asset prices are really down and AI is all the rage right now. People are leaving crypto to go work in AI. I see this every couple of years, by the way. It's not true. But I do think that AI has the ability to unlock new use cases for digital assets and crypto. I think stablecoins is the easiest fit just because of like the payments angle. But I'm sure that because at the end of the day, think about 6 months ago, we didn't know that we could run OpenClaw and have an agent run and do all your like personal tasks. Like that wasn't something people thought could happen 6 months ago. Like the rate of development in AI is super fast. And so I think they're going to, as soon as they start to kind of integrate more with crypto closely, you're going to see more and more use cases pop up faster than just simple agent-to-agent payments.
I agree with Dave, but I want to go a step further to say that I think decentralized stablecoins or over-collateralized stablecoins will end up being the stablecoin of choice for agents because it's much easier for them to verify on-chain that the assets are valid. And when you start going into like what is the black box that is Tether and Circle, they just won't have that data available as quickly.
Interesting. I haven't heard that take. That's good.
Stupid take? I don't know. What does the audience think?
No, I like it. So, Dave, you already started answering this, but I'm curious to hear the perspective of the other panelists. And I also have a follow-up for you, Dave, so you're not left out, which is that under the Genius Act, there's like a long list of things you need to check off to be an officially regulated stablecoin. And by the time you've checked all these boxes, does this make all such stablecoins completely interchangeable? Like, is it like the case that like one bank's USD coin, because it does the exact same thing as any other random regional bank's USD coin, it really doesn't matter? There's no particular use case? Like, how can and should stablecoins distinguish themselves in such a world? And the follow-up for you, Dave, is I know that you've expounded upon this a little bit with your stablecoin thesis, so I'll let you get to that when the time goes.
My first instinct would be that the people who are taking in these stablecoins are very likely, as was mentioned, that will end up being issuers themselves and will likely want to keep that guarded. And there will be third parties that end up charging fees a VIG to like swap them out. So they're like, yeah, we'll accept this other thing as long as it can be swapped into my native one. And also we're going to take a VIG on top of that, which is an annoying eventuality. But this is how banks and corporations behave.
Makes sense. Katie, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think we could see some sort of like liquidity layer, right, for all of these, stable coins to transact amongst, I would say, like the more centralized parties like the banks and such. And then, by the way, that's kind of what happens now. Basically, like if I'm sending a wire from my Bank of America account to your Bank of America account, it gets there same day. But if you bank with Wells Fargo, it's going to take 2 days.
Right. So they're going to build up walled ecosystems, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess with your question too, were you also getting at maybe stable coins that aren't just pure payment pieces? Because that's really what Genius was built for versus stable coins that are more representative of, let's say, more like investment strategies, such as, some of like, you talked about like the decentralized stable coins. We can talk about algorithmic stable coins in that same vein.
I mean, really, it's open-ended. I was just trying to get a nice, healthy fight going between people. Dave, you've articulated the Type 3 stablecoin thesis, which might help to shed some light on the...
I think the biggest shift we've seen in stablecoins is we went from teams and projects being strategists to teams and projects being allocators. And what I mean by that is, in early versions of stablecoins, you had either endogenous stablecoins, so it's yield within itself, like a CDP or something, Or you had type 1 stablecoins where it's like one team, one strategy, and the team decides to put in like treasury bills or the basis trade or something like that. But that can only scale so much, and you're still relying on the team. Then you have like type 2 where you get into the allocation territory, and that's basically people are deciding where to allocate the underlying backing of the stablecoin. So you have things like Sky and Maple, all great projects, and all have their own different risk profiles and whatnot. But it's at the end of the day, that's people that are deciding what to do with the underlying collateral. Then you have type 3 stablecoins, and instead of people deciding what to do with the underlying collateral of the stablecoin, you let markets decide. And that's where stablecoins like CAP comes in. I like to describe CAP, in the same way, like Uber has no cars, but it's the biggest taxi company in the world. Airbnb has no houses, but it's the biggest hotel company in the world. CAP has no yield, but it's the biggest yield aggregator in the world. And instead of people deciding where the capital goes, you have different, basically, people with edge, institutional borrowers. They're competing in a free market to access that collateral. They can only access it when they receive an outside delegation or a vouch from a large capital party. So we built this very unique three-sided marketplace. I know we have a minute left, so I'll hold back on it. But it goes from internal team deciding on a strategy to allocators deciding, and then markets deciding on allocation.
Excellent. And people know where to find you if they want to follow up. We'll just give everyone about 10, 15 seconds for closing thoughts on stablecoins that hasn't gotten a chance to mention. You can go ahead and start, Dave, because I cut you off.
Stablecoins will eat the world. You can follow me on Twitter at DeFiDave22. You can follow up with Cap at CapMoney_, and you can find more about Cap at cap.app.
Katie? Oh, sorry, Josh? You were...
Stablecoins are what they eat, so we should feed them things that align with our values.
I like that.
I'm 0x Joshua on Twitter and Farcaster.
Katie, last word.
I think we're finally at that inflection point. We're going to see that mass adoption. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I don't post that much, I'm sorry, but it's Katie Talati. And then if you want to follow Arca, we also post some good content. It's ARCA Twitter handle, or you can find our website, ar.ca. We are not a Canadian company, though.
Thank you, everyone.
Smile.
Thank you.